We're dedicating the entire show to our award-winning Facing It Together campaign and the launch of our brand new posters, which detail signs that someone you know might be in an abusive relationship. From today, you'll find these up and down the country in venues near you. They'll be in supermarkets, universities, concert venues, service stations and shopping centres. And our very own Jane and Nadia will be live for us later as well at some of those locations. Now, those posters, they feature a QR code, which, if you scan it using your phone, will take you to our Friends and Family Help Pack. Now, there you're going to find much more support and information, and this pack has been put together with the help of the charity Find a Way and can also be found on our website, itv.com/loose women. There's so much information on these posters, so much information out there, Frankie. I know you've got a few of the other kind of signs just to highlight some of these issues.
So is someone in your life spending less time with loved ones, being bombarded with messages and calls, struggling to concentrate or seeming anxious, making excuses or blaming themselves for their partner's behaviour, walking on eggshells around their partner, having money problems or limited access to their own finances, showing physical injuries, or being regularly belittled or criticised by their partner.
Denise, you have spoken on this show again very bravely about experiences you've had. How much of that resonates with you? Because a lot of people will be living through a lot of those things and maybe not quite realising it's the beginning, potentially, of a very downward spiral of abuse.
Probably there's only two of those that I couldn't relate to. One is the financial and one is the physical signs, which, Brenda did experience. Mine was coercive control in a relationship when I was considerably younger. And the thing about coercive control is that, I've said before on the show, you don't see the bruises, that's the difference. And a lot of people don't realise they get so used to their whole personality being chipped away. The walking on eggshells is something that I did for many, many years because I was so scared of the kick-off. Now, the kick-off wasn't physical. The kick-off could be a table flip. The kick-off could be something rude said to my parents. So it sounds so ridiculous, but there was one time when he left some crisps and a banana skin on the floor at my mum's house. Now, none of us were domestic goddesses. But what I did was I pick it up and take it away because I know that if my mum goes, "Oi, pick your banana skin up and take it in," there'll be a, "I hate your mum, she's always having a go at me." And then that starts to drag you away from your family very, very slowly. They tell you that all your friends, it used to be, your friends are laughing at you, Denise, they're not laughing with you. And the embarrassment of being with people meant that I spent all the time drawing away. We didn't have mobile phones. He would come in, he'd ring 1471, if you were those old enough to remember that that's how you knew who was last on the phone, and make his own decisions about whoever that phone was. So obviously we'll talk more, but it's the gradual chipping away till you become a non-person.
Yeah, and you don't recognise yourself anymore. And I mean, a lot of that sort of rings true for you as well.
Probably all of that
sadly.
list really relates to, that I can relate to in one way or another, but something that really sticks out for me, which I do say on here a few times, I'm an introvert person with an extrovert personality. When I go on stage, that's my release, to go on stage and just be somebody else. But I know, even now, I am a person, if I'll go into a venue, I will find the wall so that I know nobody's behind me, because I'm very still quite jumpy from that. And in relationships that I got into after that happened, I know that somebody would, and I'm still doing it. I still do it. But that's something I think that will always remain with me from that.
The side effects continue for years. For the,
and it's hard for partners after, isn't it? It is hard because you do carry so much of that burden into your next relationship. I went into my relationship with my boy's dad with no compromise because it was nobody is ever going to control me again. So even something reasonable, I used to push against.
Well, like I say, the aim of these posters is to highlight some of these signs of domestic abuse. And that is just a few of them, like we've said there. But we've got Gemma Sherrington. She is the CEO from the charity Refuge with us in the audience today. Hello, Gemma. It's lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Gemma, so I just read out the signs that are on our poster, but what are the other signs that people should look out for, that if they're worried about a friend or a loved one's, like who might be in an abusive relationship?
Yeah, there are so many that people might not be aware of, and we work with thousands of women and children every day at Refuge, and up to 39% of survivors won't report the abuse. But some of the things that women have told me directly are things like controlling sleep. So might have a partner that continuously wakes them up through the night. It is a form of control and almost torture, actually. So you might notice friends physically suffering, not from physical sort of harm abuse, but actually just physically suffering. People might control the temperature in houses, control access to food and drinks, things like that. Things you would never imagine, actually. And so you can see your friends sort of deteriorate in both their confidence and their health sometimes. And then we've mentioned things like financial control, so actually controlling finances, but also creating a lot of debt for women and other survivors. And that can create a huge burden. So you might notice things like differences in spending patterns and things like that. And what we've seen a real increase in, actually, and a lot of people talk to us about now, is increase in digital abuse. So that is things like controlling access to the phone, stalking through the phone, putting tracking devices in places like the car or in a child's toy. So all of these things you will probably see manifest themselves in someone just being more jumpy, withdrawn, not their usual selves. If you have that sense that someone isn't their usual self, then it's always worth just gently exploring that with them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gemma. Like we said, we'll be talking about much more of this that kind of coercive control, the digital side of it. I mean, it's incredible how it's almost developed. The way to abuse has developed with technology as well. We asked you at home if more needs to be done to raise awareness of these lesser known signs of domestic abuse. 93% of you said yes. We do. We need to talk about it more and we need to do more. And that is what our job is here today. So here in Loose Women, we will never stop using our platform to talk about important issues like domestic abuse, something several of the women who sit behind this very desk have experienced and have bravely opened up about in the past.
It was coercive control. Not physical control. There were a couple of scuffles, but they were, tussles between the two of us. But mostly it was coercive control from him. And the difference is that you can't see the bruises.
Yes, it was physical and as well as financial. And, that takes a massive toll on you, your friends, your family that are around you.
In the mental abusive side of things, the person had kind of said to me, you'll never find anybody because you've got 2 children and nobody wants a woman with 2 children. And I kind of believed that.
Yeah.
And so I put my self-worth, what it turns out, down to the bottom.
He just was a very, very controlling person and with a terrible, terrible temper. And to this day, I can't go to the postcode in London.
Just some of the stories from some of our loose women. And it's not easy to sit here and talk about something so incredibly personal, but all of you have chosen to do that purely because you are wanting to help other people. And I know the response that you get when you sit here and tell your stories is immense.
I got a huge, as did Brenda, response to, and I mean, I had talked about it before, I think, but when you're enveloped in an important campaign like this, it draws more attention. And there were so many women who said, and it sounds bizarre, but until I heard you talking about what coercive abuse was, I just thought it was normal. But I've actually been living with that. And I think I talked about something like he used to hide things from me. And I mean, I say domestic goddess. You know, some things would go unnoticed, but he would. I used to smoke at the time, and I'd go to the toilet and come back in a restaurant, an example, and I came back and said, "Where's my cigarettes?" And he went to everybody, "Oh my God, look at her, she's mad. She thinks she had her cigarettes." Later on, my sister said he took them from the table and removed them. So he starts to chip away, and you start thinking that you're going mad.
You're starting to doubt yourself.
Tiny example was
Yeah,
that.
obviously, you know, I've had a lot of messages from people, and I felt a bit useless and a bit helpless because I didn't know how to help them. But it's campaigns like this and having you guys in that will really help to raise that awareness. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. Well, you'll have noticed that we've been flashing up the number for the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, and we'll do that throughout the entire show today. It's free, it's confidential, and it's available 24 hours a day. Of course, if you are in immediate danger, always, always call 999. If you are affected by any of the things we've discussed today, you can also go to our website for a list of helplines where support is available.